Hello and welcome into the Sporting Pod. Along with Tony Allegretti, I'm Cole Pepper. Toss a coin. We'll see if Mauricio connects to us from the continent.
Let's make bets. We like to make bets. So I'm saying Mauricio will join us before the end.
I think, because I know he has an additional trip coming up, I think he's forgotten.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to miss him.
Okay.
Well, I'll be overjoyed if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But this is sort of like betting against your team to win the championship. If you lose your bet and you win the championship, you win. Today on the pod, we have players, how the first club signings mark the next stage for Sporting Jacks, Tony's European Vacation 2025 edition, what Mr. Allegretti learned on his recent jaunt, and is the end of the Prem, at least for now, what we took away from a wild Premier League season. We are fed by the Bearded Pig, locally owned and operated with that great barbecue in San Marco. Make sure you swing by the Bearded Pig for great barbecue and great times. I need to do that. I might do that today. All right. We are recording this on Thursday in the Gemstone Media Studios, and yesterday was a very busy day in the world of Sporting Jacks for a number of reasons, not the least of which being that we announced and introduced our first two player signings for the pro team for the USL Super League, center back Georgia Brown and number 10, Ashlyn Puerta. Let's talk about these two players and the impact. First, both of these players by now have gotten on planes and have flown out to play internationally. Georgia Brown she's English, her father's side is Scottish, and so she is eligible to play for Scotland, and she has been for the first time called up by the U23s for Scotland, so she's heading over for that. And Ashlyn Puerta is playing with the U20s for the United States in the CONCACAF Championship. So both
for the U.S.
For the United States of America. Right. That's right. Yeah. Ashlyn is originally from San Diego and played at Florida State as a freshman. Both of these players have Florida connections. Georgia played at USF, where she was a all-conference pick and a two-time academic All-American. She just graduated with a degree in biomedical science. She's going to pursue medicine after her soccer career is over, and also has played for the last 2 or 3 seasons for Florida Elite, including last year when she was the Defender of the Year in the USL W League.
For the whole league.
For the whole league, for like 90, however many teams there were last year.
90 teams plus however many center backs there were.
You're right.
That's amazing.
So that's at least 180 center backs, right. And it has to be somewhere in the 300 range for total defenders. So, that's the thing.
Well, it again sort of underlines our commitment to quality and pedigree. These are two absolute amazing signings. Puerta, I haven't seen as much as I've seen Georgia Brown, but she scores goals for fun and is obviously well respected and getting call-ups. Can't beat that.
She played as a freshman at Florida State, the defending national champions.
Right, heard of them.
And not just played every game.
Yeah.
Scored 4 goals and 5 assists, something like that, as a freshman. That's a talent when you can bust into the FSU lineup as a freshman and play every game, and contribute. That's huge. She also that sound you just heard, ladies and gentlemen,
is me winning the lotto.
Is Tony winning the bet and me losing the bet. Mauricio Ruiz has entered the building. Mao.
Well, little did you know that me and Tony were in on it.
Wow.
So this is all planned. Well done,
right.
Tony. Wait to get him baited in.
You should have waited until the Venmo hit.
That would be the other sound.
Ka-ching. As I said, now I am happy because though I lost my bet, we do get Mauricio in the podcast. Mao, just your thoughts on the first two signings with Sporting Jacks, Georgia Brown, and Ashlyn Puerta.
Well, there's a lot of different angles of excitement here, specifically with Georgia, because, we've been talking to her for quite some time. She was a graduating, a college player. We knew that this was the next step for her. And we just have a lot of track record on Georgia. We've seen her with Florida League in the W League for the last 2 years. She's been a captain. She's an all-conference player. I mean, there's not a lot of question marks on Georgia. She's almost as close to a sure thing as you're going to find it. So we've been talking to her. It was just a matter of time when we could get her signed. And the more you talk to her, Cole, and I think we talked about this offline, she's just an unbelievable human being. Like,
Yep.
she's the kind of young lady that you really hope, if you have a daughter, you want your daughter to grow up to be like, inspired to be. If you have a son, that he finds someone, he's lucky enough to find someone to be with her. And she's just special. She's just a special young lady. She's smart, she's intelligent, and she's a leader. She's going to be at some point a captain of this team. All working, towards her, and her working for it. As far as actually, she's just like a video game. Like, she's just fun to watch. I mean, talk about a player that has this ceiling that none of us right now, and anyone that can tell you, that wants to tell you that, oh, she's gonna get to this level, and like it's a for sure thing. No, like, she's the kind of player that she can break any kind of like guardrail. She can any kind of guidelines that are put in front of her, because she's just that talented. So she could eventually be playing Champions League for Barcelona. That's her ceiling, in my opinion. And that's exciting, right?
By the way, if that's her
Player in our
ceiling,
backyard.
That's her goal.
that's
right?
her goal.
Yeah.
She has been a Barcelona fan since she was,
There you
basically going to understand it, and now here she is starting her pro career. Very excited. I should also point out that there are some reasons why these two were chosen first. Part of it is the quality of them as players and people. Also, part of it is the timing.
Yeah. The announcements, right? Because
Yes.
we have multiple signings that are going to be announced over time,
Yep.
but they have different urgencies in terms of when we're going to find out about them based on things like call-ups.
Yes, or other contracts, or their contracts ending. The league. It is something here, and I haven't been involved in these conversations with the league, but I do think one of the things that we learn in anything new is the first year you go through a cycle, or the first cycle of whatever it is you go through it, you learn an awful lot about what you didn't know. And I don't think the league thought a lot about how to handle expansion teams in some regard. And this is going to come off as a bit of a criticism, and I hope it is a constructive criticism for what happens moving forward. Couple of examples. Number one, there is not any sort of adjustment made for new teams coming to the league to get extra practice time to ramp up, to try to catch up with the rest of the league. Everybody's supposed to start training camp at the same time.
That's your problem thing there.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So to me, you should. The NFL does it. If the NFL does it, you should probably at least consider it. For expansion teams or teams with new coaches, they give them extra practice time in the offseason. Number two, the signing window and when you can announce these things. Obviously, there's very little time between the end of the Super League season, which ends weekend after this for the regular season, and then 2 more weeks for the postseason. So we're in the middle of June, and then training camps open in early July.
Yeah.
There's not much time, and it is important for the clubs to be able to generate interest and excitement.
Sell tickets.
And sell tickets and get people.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, selling tickets, but I think more importantly is generate interest and excitement within the community and grow that community around the club.
Right.
That in turn becomes ticket sales and merchandise sales and sponsorship and all those things. So I hope that moving forward we'll be able to announce more of these signings when we can and
Quicker.
want to.
Yeah.
Because you'd love to be able to sort of announce whether it's pro signings or even academy signings at a time where you're ready to let that out and let the fans in the community experience the momentum of an expansion team.
No, I totally agree, and it's a lot of that. I think the league will improve. Take this on. All good things are informed by experience.
Continuous process improvement.
That's right.
Yep.
But there's also the visa sort of system right now is really unpredictable.
Yes.
There's been other reasons as well that we've had to be sort of really deliberate and pause a little bit on some of these announcements. But I will say, I don't know if we're going to do a presser every signing.
Yeah.
But there's a tremendous amount of talent that you're about to hear more about as we get it out into the community, get the news out. So it'll be worth the wait, but don't wait on tickets.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. And here's why. Season tickets are on sale right now for the 2025-2026 USL Super League season. Tickets right now, as of 5/22/25, start as low as $10 per game for students, $12 per game for supporters, and $15 per game for general admission, with premium and field side seating also available. Now, as of June 1st, these early adopter ticket prices go away, and ticket prices for season tickets go up. So if you want to lock in your best price imaginable, this is the time to do it. There is also an installment plan that's available with all the benefits of season ticket ownership from the first installment, so you don't have to pay for it all at once. Just go to sportingjacks.com/tickets or call 904-863-KICK to get things started there and to do it before we get to the end of the month.
It's about a week, a little over a week.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
so
exactly. All right, let's talk about Tony's trip to Europe.
I don't like how you called it a vacation. This was clearly work.
Yeah, but
everyone knows this was work.
Clearly. If there was a European work,
not from the picture that I got.
Right, exactly. If there was a movie called European Work, I would have used that as the line. I was playing off of
my
Chevy
family,
Chase.
my kids, and my bride. I love them to death, but they always, every time I go somewhere, they call it bleisure.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, honey, I'm working.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're very fortunate to be working in professional soccer and to get these things. So
complete blessings.
Why don't you just kind of walk us through what this trip meant to you and what you learned?
Okay, so gonna have to be a little skittish on the details just because a lot of things are developing in sort of papering different partnerships and ideas. We've been cultivating for a long time. Some were new opportunities that we went over to investigate. But a really good.
So this was you.
This was
Mark Warburton, Steve Livingstone, the president of the club, and Ricky Kaplan, the owner,
and Ricky's son, who's an absolute delight. And he behaved so well. I want to talk about that because dragging a young sort of kid along on a there was Saturday, we were literally in 4 different countries. And I'm not talking about taking the train, across Europe. I'm talking about different airports. And it was a lot. And so, but shout out to his boy. I won't say his name because I don't want to. But anyway, it was really good. It was all of us and Warburton, kind of marshaled a lot of it, but then some of it was split. So executive sort of meetings simultaneous with football meetings with some of them. So the main thrust is building partnerships for player sort of movement, and then there is some early talks on more deeper involvement, cross-continental, not just Europe, all over the world. Really strong vibes. Met some absolutely incredible people. If this thing, when we know whether it happens or doesn't, I'll sit down and talk about all of it. Yeah. So
can you? But you did post some photos of different matches you were able to attend.
Yes.
Give us a 30,000-foot overview of those experiences.
Sure. I think we did 4 matches in 4 days. One was second division Norway, which was absolutely amazing. These guys, one thing that's very interesting about them, it's called Lyn Oslo. They're working on a potential stadium development, which is really interesting and really different. But also a lot of similarities, but in a lot of ways really different. So we had good meetings with them. That match was super strong. We also ended up at Brentford. So unfortunately, we saw Fulham beat Brentford in the last minute, and that was a bummer. For Brentford. I hate to bring them bad luck because they really kind of could have used that to move up the mid-table a little bit, and actually Fulham really needed it. So that was an interesting one. We also saw Celtic at Celtic Park and watched the trophy celebration. I think it's 14 out of 15 they've won, which is but still amazing how many people, what that club means to that community, and all of those places we had good meetings too. So really interesting vibes. really high level soccer, football, and just a lot of really good camaraderie. And again, what's always not surprising but invigorating is that when we get to these places, they know about Sporting Jacks. They know what we're doing. They know about our sort of ambitions. Obviously, everyone knows Mark, so that's super helpful.
Yes.
And we can, really, our meetings get taken, and our, and our sort of the background on our history is out there. So it's really awesome considering we haven't kicked a ball professionally yet.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. By the way, I'm going to work on this. I really want to get Ricky Kaplan's perspective on this because, as a first-time owner of a professional sports team, those lessons learned along the way, I think, are invaluable. I really like to get his perspective. We'll try to get him on our many platforms coming up here in just a bit.
That's a good, real quick, that's a really good idea. What's interesting, too, on that is because his background is, health tech and all that, there are things that he sees and ideas that he's brought up in some of these sort of admin type meetings, we'll call them, that have been really well received and also just different, So he comes from a different place, so it may be an advantage in some ways, and he's also learned a ton.
Yes.
It's like you could get him to talk about the U.S. ecosystem and pyramid, and he sounds like you on TV.
That's good. Yeah. Well, I mean,
hey,
as long as he doesn't look like it, right? Okay. A reminder that you can keep up to date with what's happening in Sporting Jacks, the Sporting Jacks Report on NBC 12, Saturday at 12:30. Then every Tuesday night at 6, it's the Coaches Show on 1010XL with Mark Warburton and Stacey Balaam. This coming week, by the way, Olivia Thompson is going to join me, an assistant at JU and also works with Florida League and the W League, and somebody who has some pro experience. So she'll join us on Tuesday. And then the Sporting Jack Soccer Hour every Thursday night at 6 on AM 930, Fox Sports Radio Jacksonville. Mauricio Ruiz and Becky Burley join me each and every week. All right, I want to spend just a brief amount of time on the Europa League final. Spurs, a 1-0 winner over Man U. Mauricio, we've talked about this Premier League season and how odd it has been. And, obviously part of that is that the two teams that were, the lowest teams in the table that didn't get relegated wind up playing for a spot in the Champions League.
Well, this was it for Man U as far as kind of salvaging any type of try this year. I mean, not even success, but for them to get to the final and eventually get a Champions League, so I would have been, really short of amazing, being that they had the worst season ever in the Premier League, and only to fall short to Tottenham, which, from what I understand, is their first ever major title. Right? They've never had any major title in their history. So great for Tottenham. I don't know what that means for them going forward, especially because they've had such a terrible season as well. It just looked like two desperate people, kind of grabbing on to whatever's left over to salvage on. And the game was not good. I watched the second half. It was two bad teams with looked like they should be good teams, but neither one of them really putting together any kind of real performance. Just we see those teams in the Europa Cup final with the prestigious competition. And now one of them gets to go to the Champions League.
Yeah, I do want to point out, by the way, Tottenham has won quite a few.
17 years ago. But I think the point is well made. It's not, Europa, and I'm sure Warburton would argue this because I think that was his last big trophy with West Ham. Europa is not, although it meant a lot, and obviously, I always win my second year, mate. Mm-hmm. I love that. But, both of those teams, to Mal's point, both of those teams are looking up at Everton. And they're not going to catch them this year, which is just it's amazing how far they've fallen considering their wages, considering their talent. This even with the Spurs victory, which is going to feel like they're going to be hung over for a little while, and then they're just going to really absolutely have to figure it out.
Yeah. By the way, and pardon me for doing this, but I just want to, because I know there are Spurs fans listening to this who are pulling their hair out. Last won the FA Cup in 91.
Okay,
So that's been a while for sure. Won the European Cup Winners' Cup in 63. UEFA Cup winner is in 84.
That 63 is similar to the Champions League.
Similar,
because it's the Cup Winners' Cup. Right?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And won the Football League Cup in 2008. So that
not nothing.
Not maybe quite on the level.
Yeah.
But it's listen. There is some hardware there in
a really long time.
It's been a while, and so for many
in the digital age.
Yes.
Since Wikipedia has been around.
Yes.
Apparently. Well, let me just say that in perspective, Everton's last trophy was 95, which was obviously way more sophisticated than 91.
Clearly, very much so. All right, we do want to wrap things up here to remind you that the Champions League final is May the 31st, and we will be at Island Wing Company on Southside Boulevard for a Champions League watch party there. Tony, what will people experience other than the camaraderie of other soccer fans?
Well, I think we're going to have some players potentially, maybe some W League, some USL 2 players. We're going to have our brand new scratch off, lots of prizes. If you come to a Sporting Jacks event, you don't have to spend money. You can. We're going to have, scarves and stuff available. We've got Anthony Ortiz, our great merchandise manager, will make sure that we have all the gear that you want.
Yep.
But you can also walk away with stuff, and it's super fun. The Island Wings food is amazing, and their beers are cold, and they have all kinds of deals. So Sounds Up. Every TV will be on. If you've ever been to one of our watch parties, especially around the Champions League, it's massive. We did it at 2 locations last year. It's just at Southside this year, although they'll have it on at Bartram or wherever you are. But we feel like this is going to be a big festive event.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great, and should be a very compelling game with Inter and PSG. PSG going for kind of breaking the curse there of European.
All right, let's make our predictions on that. Even though I've already made mine for Inter,
I'm going to take PSG.
Okay. Mal, who you like?
You know what? I'm going to take Inter. I'm going to take a slightly underdog, even though they don't consider themselves. Take Inter.
Yeah.
All right. This and that brings us to the portion of the podcast where Tony breaks format and says something.
Yeah, I just want to say we finished up with our clinics. We're always doing free clinics around the north side and around deeper parts of Jacksonville where soccer access is limited. I want to shout out my technical director, Mike Johnson, and his sidekick, Don Griffith, and say thank you, and thank you to Kip for hosting. Keep your eyes posted on sportingjacks.com/foundations for the next clinics, which we will talk about very soon.
Yep, should be good. All right, Mal, safe travels, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
You'll hear me from Hungary next week.
And you will just hear me hungry. So it'll be much along the same lines.
Perfect.
For Tony Allegretti and Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks so much for listening to The Sporting Pod.